You're listening to Well Within 10, a bite-sized approach to working on your wellness. 10 minutes of wellness thought leadership from experts across the country, hosted by me, founder Stevie Gable Carr. Today we're chatting with Vernon Jackson, successful barbershop and salon owner, celebrity barber, and now author of Looking Glass, a men's reflection within the scope of dating and relationships. Hi, Vernon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Stevie. Good to be here.
Thank you so much. So what are we going to be chatting about today?
So today we're going to talk about the top 3 things that women need to know to get a deeper and better understanding of their man, whether they're dating or while they're inside their relationship.
Oh, I love that. Well, yeah. I'm excited to dive in. First, let's talk about our sponsor, the Christ Hospital. For more than 130 years, the Christ Hospital has been dedicated to providing the best, most compassionate care for our community. By continually reimagining what healthcare can be, Christ has become more than just a hospital. Today, they're an extensive network of 6,500 employees, 1,200 physicians, and 600 volunteers, serving patients in more than 100 locations throughout Greater Cincinnati. Learn more at thechristhospital.com. So let's dive in. The top 3 tips. So we are, really amidst a really crazy, stressful time. And yes, we know that relationships really contribute to this. As a women's organization, having conversations about relationships and especially, heterosexual relationships between men and women can be really challenging because, we come from different backgrounds and the way that we communicate with each other. But today we're going to be talking about all relationships really. And I think that being able to have your perspective on this, your book is incredible. I really want to dive in. So the first one that you kind of talked about was really about identifying the importance to confidently and vulnerably communicate. What's that all about?
Yeah. So, when it comes down to it, Stevie, so many of us, when it comes to communicating our feelings, it becomes a challenge because either in our past relationships or experiences, whenever we gave up of ourselves, our vulnerability of how we felt about some things, people had taken it a wrong way. Whether a wrong way looked like they vilified you for it, a wrong way may be that they just didn't get it. So what I want to tell people is this: look at being vulnerable is more for you than it is for the other person. So meaning, when you are being vulnerable, you are letting off of your heart, off of your mind, off of your spirit, what it is that is affecting you at its deepest level. And you're putting it out into the universe, you're putting it on the table for the person. That they pick it up, beautiful. They get it, amazing. But if they don't, it's okay, because everyone has to learn and get things in their own time. Your job is to get off of your chest, get off of your heart, and then go from there.
I think that's so powerful. And really, understanding that you can do that without losing who you are and what you do. There's so much fear that comes from vulnerability, but yes, if we can help to really stand in this really strong sense of self, I think it's really crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that kind of takes us to number 2. Whether you are in a relationship, you're single, dating, maybe you're taking a break, that your first and most relationship is with yourself.
For sure. And one of the main things I learned in this, in the single space, which is the space that a lot of us, experience for a longer period of time than other people. Some people are serial daters; they're always inside a relationship. But when you're in a single or in a space by yourself, it's an opportunity to dive deeper, to learn your love language, to learn you so much more, to really spend intentional time with the person that you spend the most time with, which is yourself. Yeah. And so when you get to know yourself on all these levels, your language, taking yourself out, it makes it easier for you to communicate to other people how to speak your language, right? Because we all may, in one form or fashion, have been with someone and they didn't know who they were, right? Yeah. And so that within itself can be its own challenge, right? But a lot of times we can see in other people, but we refuse to see in ourselves what we don't know about ourselves. So I just want to encourage people right now to, whatever space you're in, whether you're dating or you're single or you're in a relationship, there's never a wrong time to take the time to love you, learn you, and really be able to articulate who you really are. Because that foundation within itself is going to allow you to, if you're in a dating space, no matter what happens in that space, you will always be able to come back to who you really are. You won't lose yourself in the event that the relationship is lost, right?
Yeah.
Which is a powerful place to be.
I think that one of the really powerful stories you and I have chatted about before is our ability, and I'll speak for myself, my ability, I statements. I have the ability to really vilify people for not giving me as much as I'm giving them. I'm pouring so much into them, and why are they not reciprocating? Why are they not pouring into me? And I think that through this work of really understanding and self-discovery, instead of, and that's been the work for me the last couple of years, is recognizing that I did that. Like I did that. I set expectations for them, and knowing that why, if I would have taken all of that energy that I was pouring into other people that they never asked for and poured that into myself and learned to love myself and invest in myself. I mean, wow, how powerful is that? But even knowing my own love language, I mean, I can buy myself flowers. I can take myself to a movie. I can go and, do the things that I want to do. And I feel like that there's just a huge opportunity here to learn how to do that and invest in yourself the way you're seeking that validation from other people. There's nothing wrong with wanting that, to do that with other people, but looking for somebody else to fill that void will never be the piece of it. And I think that kind of leads to the third part, which is really learning other people's stories, learning their heart story. This has been, I think, in your book, one of the more powerful pieces that I know I really resonated with, because, understanding people more deeply. It's not just about like understanding what makes them tick. It's also understanding a little bit of that shadow side too, and why they are the way they are.
Yes, no, that's a powerful way to put it. See, this is one of my favorite parts of the book as well, and one that readers have always brought up when they cornered me in some place and talked about it. Because the thing is, when you know your heart story in your single space or even whatever space that you're in, taking the time out to do the heart inventory, unpack your story, right? And as you're unpacking your story, those key moments in your life where, a breakup or a hard conversation or a misunderstanding, and what you took out of it in that moment, you end up creating a different path for you in your life. So if you're doing it from a place of, well, I would never do this again, it's a trauma response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of us start living out our lives from a place of trauma. So by unpacking it, seeing what happened, how we looked at it, going through our own inventory, then allow us to make a different kind of decision and say, you know what? I'm now, as I put things back together, I'm going to be moving from a place of love. And a place of love looks like I'm more secure. I know what my story is. I'm creating my story from a place of responding, and from a place of like, you're able to almost like, from, if hindsight is 2020, when you unpack it, now your vision is way more clear and moving forward in the present, because now you're looking at your story from a different vantage point, and that's powerful. So when you do that for yourself, you understand, you value it by asking someone else. You're not looking to see what makes them tick. You're seeing what inspires them. You're seeing, you put yourself in a position that they feel understood and heard, versus then they're going to feel as if you're just asking questions to put into your back pocket as for an arsenal.
I love that. And there's so much about this conversation around vulnerability. And I think that for men specifically, from my understanding, and what I think is so powerful about your book, is getting this peek into understanding that vulnerability can be hard, because, looking at that heart story, there may have been things that happened in their life when they tried to be vulnerable, and it didn't, it created pain. Or shame or rejection, or when they were vulnerable and they were told that that's just not the way that men operate. And I think that, understanding these cultural norms in our society, it's the way that by creating that psychologically safe space for conversation and dialogue in any relationship, and understanding that it's okay for people to have a different perspective than you, but holding that space for them, I think is so powerful. And
Yes.
I really, love the idea that if you are so in tune with yourself and you're really heightened in that elevated sense of self, that you won't be threatened by people's vulnerability and being able to hold the space for other people. So it just really kind of builds on each other. It's really, really fantastic.
It's crazy that you say that, because in my book I mentioned that there's never a perfect time for a hard conversation, but there is a better posture. And and having the posture to say, you know what, it may not be I remember dating and a conversation that was a topic that mattered to my partner at the time, and she would typically do like right before dinner, like right before I take my first bite. So now I don't want to eat my food, right?
Yeah.
But then I start to be like, what would it look like if I take the power back, right? So my position, so when I got this understanding, when a hard conversation came up, I would sit back and I was like, okay, it's no problem. What's going on? Okay, I can listen. I was listening way more intently, and I was asking questions, and I made sure that the person knew that they mattered. That was my thing. Now later on, we can discuss. Hey, would when it comes to when you have a something on your heart, please, you have a space to tell me however you feel. But we just kind of like scale it either after dinner or some other time for real. Because when you do that, in those times, this is how it affects me.
Right.
And so so again, relationship, you're building a ship, and in that ship there are different things that go to make it float, and you don't know, no ship gets on the water without each part being stress tested, right? So if you're going to if you're going to if you want a relationship, understand that conflict is the opportunity for you to see the parts of you and of the other person, thus the relationship, that needs more intentional work on. So we're looking at things, your perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. How you're looking at, you're like, no, it's like when you working out, you don't build muscle by lifting easy weight. You build muscle by lifting heavy weight and stressing out the body. So therefore growing the mind and growing and strengthening the heart is the same thing. It's the same process.
Oh my gosh. It's so amazing to just, because I think that we're so as humans, life is hard. And so we assume that happiness only comes from joy, right? But we are humans, and we're meant to grow, and we're meant to evolve, and it's about creating that strong foundation. I love that. And I love, really diving into this metaphor of the boat, because we say that all the time with Wise, that, boats weren't made for harbors. Boats were made to sail. They were meant to go different places and evolve and kind of be, and that waters aren't always calm. It's not always sunny days. That's life. And that's actually such a privilege. So just as it's been a privilege here to be with you today. I've loved this conversation. If you are interested at all in the book, I highly suggest it. It's an incredible read, and one that is, like I said, not only for people who are in relationships, but really anyone seeking to have a more important relationship with themselves and a relationship, with others. If you want to check it out, check out shop.wisewellnessfield.com to learn more. And thank you so much for being here with us today. You've been listening to Well Within 10, a bite-sized approach to working on your wellness. You can find more episodes wherever you get your podcasts.